vogliono idealmente accogliere e abbracciare tutti coloro.
In an unprecedented move that has left the world reeling, Pope Francis has announced his shocking resignation, a decision that has taken both the faithful and the global community by surprise. For the first time in centuries, the Catholic Church faces the daunting reality of a papal vacancy, raising questions about the future direction of the Church and who will succeed him. In today's video, we'll dive deep into the implications of this historic resignation, exploring the motivations behind the Pope's decision, the potential candidates to lead, and what this means for the Church and its followers worldwide. Early life in Manila, the roots of faith and community. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, affectionately known as Chito by his friends and family, was born in 1957 into a modest yet deeply religious family in Manila, Philippines. His childhood was marked by simplicity, where the vibrant energy of the city, alive with the sounds of jeepneys, bustling markets, and the hum of daily life, shaped his worldview. Manila, a city where faith and community are intricately woven together, provided the perfect backdrop for Tagle's early development. From a young age, he was immersed in a culture that prized connection, mutual support, and a strong sense of duty to others. These formative experiences, whether they were sharing meals with neighbors or attending Mass with his family, instilled in him an enduring love for both his faith and his community. Tagle's family, while not wealthy in material terms, was rich in devotion. His parents were both committed to their religious practices, imparting the values of kindness, humility, and service to their children. Growing up in such an environment, where spiritual and moral values were consistently emphasized, set the stage for Tagle's future calling. His intellectual curiosity, coupled with a strong sense of social responsibility, propelled him toward a life dedicated to serving both God and his community. Academic pursuits. A life of intellectual curiosity. Tagle's academic journey began at the prestigious Ateneo de Manila University, where he pursued degrees in philosophy and theology. His passion for intellectual inquiry was evident early on. At Ateneo, he became known for his sharp mind and thoughtful reflections on theological matters. But it wasn't just his academic prowess that distinguished him. It was his genuine commitment to understanding the challenges facing society and the Church. Even as a student, Tagle began to consider how the Church could better serve the people, particularly the marginalized and those on the peripheries of society. His years at Ateneo were foundational in shaping his theology, which would later inform much of his approach to ministry. His studies in philosophy provided him with a deep understanding of the human condition, while his theological studies laid the groundwork for a robust understanding of Catholic doctrine. Yet, it was his commitment to integrating these academic pursuits with practical action that would define his later years in service to the Church. With his thirst for knowledge unsatisfied, Tagle traveled to Rome, where he continued his studies at the prestigious Pontifical Gregorian University. There, he earned a doctorate in sacred theology, further deepening his understanding of Church teachings and preparing him for the crucial leadership roles he would later undertake. In Rome, Tagle's intellectual capacity was matched by his pastoral heart. Even as a scholar, he never lost sight of the Church's mission: to serve the people and to embody Christ's love in action. Ordination and early priesthood. The smiling priest. In 1982, Tagle was ordained a priest, marking the beginning of his long and impactful ministry. His approach to the priesthood was not one of mere ceremonial duties, but one of active engagement with his community. Tagle's priority was always to be among the people, listening to their concerns, sharing in their joys, and offering solace in times of hardship. He became known as the Smiling Priest, a title that reflected not only his warm, approachable demeanor but also his deep commitment to engaging with people on a personal level. He didn't simply preach from the pulpit, but sought to walk alongside his parishioners, offering them compassion and understanding. This period of his life was marked by his tireless efforts to connect with people from all walks of life. Whether in the slums of Manila or the rural provinces of the Philippines, Tagle made it a point to reach out to the poor and marginalized, sharing their struggles and offering both spiritual and material support. His ministry was characterized by a pastoral style that emphasized service and humility, qualities that would come to define his leadership throughout his career. Leadership in Manila, Archbishop of Manila. In 2011, Pope Benedict XVI appointed Tagle as the Archbishop of Manila, one of the most important and influential dioceses in Asia. This appointment was a significant milestone in Tagle's life, signaling both his rise within the Church and the recognition of his pastoral leadership. However, despite the prestigious nature of his new role, Tagle remained grounded. From his first sermon as Archbishop, he emphasized that his mission was not his own but Christ's mission. His leadership was not one of command and authority, but one of service and humility, setting a tone for the Church in Manila and beyond. As Archbishop, Tagle became known for his ability to connect with people from all backgrounds. He made it a point to reach out to the poor, the marginalized, and those often overlooked by society. His leadership during crises, such as Typhoon Haiyan, locally known as Yolanda in 2013, demonstrated his unyielding commitment to his people. When the typhoon struck, causing widespread devastation in the Philippines, Tagle was at the forefront of relief efforts, coordinating aid and visiting the affected areas to personally offer comfort and support. His leadership during this crisis solidified his reputation as a compassionate, hands-on shepherd, always ready to serve and care for his flock in their greatest time of need. Cardinal Tagle, a global leader. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI appointed Tagle as a cardinal, an elevation that recognized his growing influence in the global Church. As a cardinal, Tagle's impact extended far beyond the borders of the Philippines. His theological insights and pastoral experiences resonated with Catholics worldwide, and his work on social justice, family evangelization, and global issues, such as poverty and migration, brought his message to a broader audience. His role as a cardinal allowed him to play a key part in shaping the direction of the Church in the 21st century. In 2019, Tagle was appointed prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, a role that placed him at the center of the Vatican's missionary efforts. As the Red Pope, Tagle was responsible for overseeing the Church's global outreach, working to spread the gospel to areas of the world where Catholicism was less established. His appointment marked the expansion of his influence, as he worked tirelessly to address regional challenges in areas such as sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. A focus on interfaith dialogue and peace-building. In addition to his work on social justice and global issues, Tagle has been a strong advocate for interfaith dialogue, particularly in regions where multiple religions coexist. In the Philippines, where Catholicism and Islam have often been in tension, Tagle has worked to foster reconciliation and cooperation between Catholic and Muslim leaders. He has supported programs in Mindanao that focus on education, poverty alleviation, and peace-building, working to address the root causes of conflict and promote mutual respect between faith communities. Tagle's approach to interfaith dialogue is not just about creating peace between different religions, but also about highlighting shared values. Whether speaking to a Muslim leader in the Philippines or addressing a global audience, Tagle consistently emphasizes the common humanity that binds us all together. His efforts to promote peace, tolerance, and understanding have earned him respect and admiration from both religious and secular leaders around the world. Cardinal Tagle's approach to youth engagement. One of the most remarkable aspects of Cardinal Tagle's ministry is his ability to connect with young people. In a time when many young people feel disconnected from organized religion, Tagle has become a voice of hope and inspiration. His warm, personable approach resonates with younger generations, and his messages of compassion, service, and faith are both relevant and relatable. At events such as World Youth Day, Tagle's speeches are among the most anticipated. Rather than delivering a traditional sermon, he engages with young people directly, addressing their doubts, fears, and aspirations. He encourages them to see themselves as active participants in the Church's mission, not just passive recipients of religious teachings. His ability to speak to the hearts and minds of young people makes him a powerful bridge between tradition and modernity, ensuring that the Church remains relevant to future generations. Cardinal Tagle's legacy and the future of the Church. As Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle continues to rise through the ranks of the Catholic Church, his influence only grows. His leadership embodies a vision for the Church that is inclusive, compassionate, and committed to serving the most vulnerable. Whether addressing the global migration crisis, advocating for environmental stewardship, or working to bridge divides between different faiths, Tagle's work represents a modern, dynamic approach to Catholicism that is rooted in the core values of love, service, and humility. Tagle's potential to become the next pope is a topic of great discussion within the Church. His ability to navigate the complexities of the modern world while staying true to the teachings of Christ makes him a compelling candidate. If he were to ascend to the papacy, Cardinal Tagle would likely continue Pope Francis's emphasis on mercy, humility, and social justice, while expanding the Church's global mission and engagement with youth and marginalized communities. In many ways, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle represents the future of the Catholic Church, one that is global, inclusive, and deeply rooted in the values of Christ's love for all people. His journey from the streets of Manila to the halls of the Vatican is a testament to the power of faith, humility, and dedication to service, and it serves as an inspiration to Catholics and non-Catholics alike. The Church's internal struggles, the rising tension between conservatism and progressivism. The Catholic Church is currently experiencing a period of division unlike anything seen in recent history. There is an undeniable shift happening, one that has created a battleground between progressive and conservative forces. These tensions are rooted in theological debates, but they also reflect broader societal shifts in the modern world. Tagle, with his focus on mercy, inclusivity, and dialogue, stands at the crossroads of these competing ideological camps. He is not only a spiritual leader, but also a cultural figure who understands the profound importance of bridging the gaps between seemingly disparate worldviews within the global Church. Conservatism and resistance, the pushback against change. Conservative factions within the Church, particularly those entrenched in Western countries, are often wary of Tagle's approach. His emphasis on compassion for the marginalized, his openness to discussions surrounding the role of women in the Church, and his willingness to entertain dialogue on LGBTQ inclusion are seen as troubling by many who fear these ideas challenge traditional Church teachings. For these groups, change is viewed with suspicion, and any attempt to adapt the Church's teachings to modern sensibilities is seen as a threat to the integrity of the faith. These movements advocate for a strict adherence to the doctrines that have guided the Church for centuries, and they view Tagle's calls for mercy and inclusivity as potentially undermining the very foundations of Catholic tradition. The rise of populist, traditionalist movements in the West, fueled in part by political and social instability, has given a louder voice to these conservative factions. Their influence has been growing within the Church, and their concerns about Tagle's approach to Church reform reflect the tensions that have plagued not just Catholicism, but many traditional institutions. For these traditionalists, Tagle's role as a modernizing figure risks alienating the faithful who hold dear the Church's rigid and time-honored structures. The need for a firm hand. Tagle's gentle leadership style. Under scrutiny. Some critics argue that Tagle's gentle and diplomatic approach may not be sufficient for leading the Catholic Church through the difficult and often confrontational terrain of modern-day religious politics. The Catholic Church has long been a complex institution, navigating power dynamics, political maneuvering, and deeply entrenched historical customs. Tagle's leadership style, focused on consensus building, empathy, and dialogue, has been criticized by some as too idealistic. They question whether a man known for his warm demeanor and careful words can effectively navigate the institutional inertia that often plagues the Vatican and the Church's central administration, particularly the Curia. The question remains whether a leader who emphasizes compassion, like Tagle, can meet the more pragmatic demands of leading such a powerful and sometimes opaque institution. Some have argued that the Church, in its current state, requires a more forceful leader who can command respect and take decisive action in times of crisis. The reality of navigating the complexities of the Church, however, is that leadership cannot always be reduced to simple solutions. It requires understanding the deep-seated traditions of the Church while simultaneously addressing the evolving needs of its global congregation. Tagle's supporters. emphasizing compassion as strength. Despite these critiques, Tagle has garnered a significant following within the Catholic Church for his ability to build bridges rather than walls. His supporters argue that his emphasis on compassion and empathy has allowed him to connect with the faithful on a personal level, regardless of their backgrounds or circumstances. His leadership in Manila, where he initiated important reforms that focused on the well-being of the community and sought to build unity within the archdiocese, serves as a model for his approach to leadership at the global level. His ability to foster collaboration rather than confrontation has been seen as an asset in an institution where divisiveness often reigns. Tagle's supporters point to his role in responding to crises, such as his leadership during Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, as a testament to his capacity to manage adversity with grace and empathy. His compassionate leadership, which sought not only to provide immediate relief but also to rebuild communities and offer long-term support, demonstrates his commitment to the Church's mission of service. For many, his vision of a more compassionate, inclusive Church is exactly what the institution needs in a time of moral and theological reckoning. Reforming the Curia, the challenge of institutional change. Tagle's diplomatic approach and reputation for consensus building will be tested should he be chosen as Pope. Reforming the Vatican's Curia, the central governing body of the Catholic Church, has long been a priority for Pope Francis, who has sought to address systemic issues of inefficiency, secrecy, and corruption. However, the entrenched bureaucracy of the Curia has proven to be a significant obstacle to meaningful reform. Tagle, known for his skills as a mediator, will likely be asked to continue the work of reforming the Curia, but this will not be an easy task. The Church's central administration has been resistant to change, with powerful factions within the Vatican deeply invested in maintaining the status quo. Reforming the Curia requires not only addressing issues of accountability and transparency, but also balancing the need for modernization with respect for the Church's ancient traditions. Tagle's ability to listen to diverse stakeholders, engage in dialogue, and build consensus may serve him well in this delicate balancing act. His success in navigating the complexities of church administration in Manila, where he was able to introduce reforms while maintaining strong relationships with the clergy and laypeople alike, provides hope that he could replicate this success at the Vatican. Unifying a divided church, the challenge of bridging ideological gaps. One of the greatest challenges facing Tagle, or any future pope, is the growing ideological divide within the Church. The increasing polarization between progressive and traditionalist factions is not limited to theological issues, but is also tied to broader social and political forces. The rise of populist politics, economic inequality, and social unrest has affected the Church in unprecedented ways, leading to an intensification of doctrinal disputes. As a leader, Tagle's role would be to prevent this division from further widening, recognizing that the Church's survival and spiritual mission depend on fostering unity in an increasingly fractured world. Tagle's leadership in the Synod of Bishops, particularly in navigating discussions about controversial issues like LGBTQ inclusion, divorce, and remarriage, has shown that he possesses the skills necessary to facilitate dialogue on complex matters. He has consistently advocated for an approach that emphasizes accompaniment, walking alongside people as they navigate their struggles, rather than condemnation. His ability to guide discussions on these difficult topics with compassion and respect for differing viewpoints could help bridge the divide between the Church's many factions. Addressing the decline in Catholicism, a global challenge. The Catholic Church's global membership is shifting, with growth in regions like Asia and Africa, while traditional strongholds in Europe and North America see declining membership and secularization. Cardinal Tagle's experience in serving the burgeoning Catholic communities in Asia places him in a unique position to address this challenge. His ability to communicate effectively with younger generations, many of whom feel disconnected from the Church's message, will be crucial in reversing the decline in church attendance and engagement in Western countries. To reconnect with younger Catholics, Tagle would need to bridge the gap between the Church's traditional teachings and the evolving concerns of today's youth. Issues like social justice, environmental sustainability, and the role of women in society are of great importance to young people, and Tagle's ability to speak to these concerns while maintaining the Church's theological integrity could prove pivotal. However, this will require a shift in the Church's approach to outreach, particularly in its messaging and communication strategies.